Good afternoon, everyone. I'm going to call to order this regularly scheduled meeting of the Public Health, Environment, Civil Rights, and Engagement Committee for Monday, November 5th, 2018. My name is Philippe Cunningham. I am the council member for Ward 4 and the chair of this committee. With me at the dais are council members Cano and Schrader, as well as Council Vice President Jenkins. Let the record reflect that we have a quorum. Also with us at the dais, I want to make sure to give a shout out to our committee coordinator, Peggy, as well as our assistant city attorney, Andrea. So thank you. And so with our first order of business today is a presentation on the 2018 Green Business Awards and the Minneapolis Building Energy Challenge. PatrickHanlon, Director of Environmental Services, and Gretchen Musicant, Commissioner of the Health Department, will begin the presentation, and we will be presenting all together as a group the Green Business Award winner. So I'm going to pass it on over to Commissioner Musicant.
Thank you, Councilmember Cunningham.
It's great to be here, and what a wonderful crowd. I'm noticing one of our former employees, Vicki McIntosh. That's fun, too. So I'm Gretchen Musicant. I'm the Commissioner of Health, and as you may or may not know, every year the Green Business Awards recognize green business cost share recipients and organizations for their commitment to the health of the people of Minneapolis. This year, we are recognizing the last 4 dry cleaners who switched away from PERC, a hazardous cancer-causing chemical that has made it possible for Minneapolis to be the first PERC-free city in the country. Yeah. We are recognizing a local school for their commitment to renewable energy that started a much larger solar movement here this year in Minneapolis, and a local restaurant for its continued exceptional commitment to sustainable practices. I'm going to turn it over to PatrickHanlon, who will talk about a little bit more about what we have in store for us.
Hi, my name is Patrick Hanlon. I'm the Director of Environmental Programs for the Health Department. We were just joking that usually there's not this many people who are here in a good mood. So this is really nice to see this many people here. I'm happy to be part of this. This is the 6th year of the Green Business Awards. It took, after seeing this room, this really drives this home, is that it took 3 years of denied proposals for the first green business project to get into the city budget. Once it started, we were told by a local government agency that no one would even sign up. Once we got a couple projects going, we were told that this would take too long, this approach would take too long, to switch businesses away, and we needed to stop and strategize for something bigger. While others talked, we went on and succeeded in eliminating PERC in Minneapolis by working together through what my boss calls relentless incrementalism. We have now scaled this program from that first business in 2012 to 118 businesses and nonprofit organizations strong in Minneapolis. I am happy to announce that this will be the last year of the Green Business Awards. That's confusing. I'm happy to say that because we need to rename the awards to eliminate business, because we're no longer working exclusively with businesses. We're here to assist multifamily building owners, tenants, working with residential partners as well. So we'll need to rename the awards for next year. The program has reduced over 70,000 pounds of pollution in our local air here in Minneapolis. We've eliminated 20 million pounds of greenhouse gases through the strongest local incentive program in the country to address pollution and climate change. Today, we would like to honor the partners who were there from the very first challenging steps to guide us and say, yes, how can we help? It is a group of partners who made the Green Business Program possible and continue to work today. They believe in a model of walking beside and investing alongside those in our community who are also wanting to invest in a better future for our city. So with that, I'm going to turn this over to Chair Cunningham and have us kick off the awards.
Great, thank you so much. I will just hop right over here. So before I kick it off, I actually want to make sure this was kind of breezed over a little bit. So I just want to pause, and it's actually kind of a big deal that we've expanded beyond businesses and moved into residential. So being able to, it's been so impactful that folks are like, let's keep expanding it. So can we actually give a round of applause for the leadership of Commissioner and Director Hanlon? It's with great leadership that we get to these partnerships and great leadership both in the city and out in the community. Building partnerships in and out of the system is really how we truly get work done sustainably, pun intended. Come on, that was sort of good, right? All right, so I'm happy to kick us off and do our first award, which goes to the Minnesota Department of Health and the Manager of Environmental Surveillance and Assessment, James Kelly, for the Partnership Award. Can James come on up, please? Let's give him a round of applause. Why don't you switch? Oh, yeah, we'll do that. So the City of Minneapolis the City of Minneapolis Health Department advocates for protecting human health in our city. Fortunately, we have state partners like the Minnesota Department of Health to provide us with the tools to act. Our Minneapolis staff rely heavily on the standards that have been established by the Minnesota Department of Health in evaluating inhalation risks of chemicals using what is called the health risk value benchmarks. Their staff have been dependable and responsive in guiding us in protecting human health as we have developed this program. These Minnesota Department of Health benchmarks have given us the justification to act specifically through the Green Cost Share program in evaluating air quality samples at dry cleaners, as well as in the citywide air quality studies. So thank you to the Minnesota Department of Health.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. It is my pleasure to present the next award, which goes to the Minnesota Pollution Control Agency, Mike Nelson, Eric David, and Deputy Commissioner David Thornton for the Partnership Award. All right, so there would be no Green Cost Share program if it weren't for the assistance of the MPCA staff, who helped support and formulate the idea back in 2012. The MPCA Small Business Program has assisted and helped leverage several dry cleaning and automotive shops with financing and incentives. They have been incredibly helpful in providing technical assistance for air sampling techniques to assess the impacts of individual projects. They were also able to assist our last dry cleaning project with a financial incentive through their Small Business Assistance Program. Thank you to the MPCA, and I want to pass it over. Actually, I just got the word that folks are going to get a couple of words. So actually, James Kelly, if you have anything to add, please come back up, and I'll go ahead here and pass it on over for you to be able to say a few words.
Sure. Thank you. I just want to say it's an honor to accept this on behalf of the department, and we really value our partnership with the City of Minneapolis. They've really taken the idea of taking good public health science and applying it at the local level, which is going to produce public health benefits for Minneapolis citizens and for everybody who's interested in clean air. So I want to congratulate the city on being the first city in the country to go PERC free. That's just wonderful. Thanks.
And I'd like to echo those efforts with the Pollution Control Agency, the partnership that we have with the city. In addition to working with the city on their program, we've learned from the city itself. And so we've implemented the cost share program at the statewide level, where now we're up to 80 businesses. So it's something that's reaching out even further.
Thank you.
Fantastic.
And I will call up my colleague, Councilmember Cam Gordon.
Thank you very much. It's my pleasure to introduce the next couple partnership awards. The first one, I'd like to present the award to Energy Smart from the Minnesota Chamber of Commerce, and hopefully Executive Director Rob Friend and Senior Efficiency Specialist Chris Rustad are here. Come on up. You can give them a round of applause now if you like. 3 years ago, we started working on energy efficiency through the Green Business Cost Share program, and Energy Smart has been a perfect partner ever since. The Minnesota Chamber of Commerce Energy Smart program provides face-to-face consultations with business owners to understand the opportunities for energy savings for small businesses. Energy Smart can also help business owners understand financing options that are out there, as well as helping business owners overcome administrative hurdles involved in applying for rebates and incentives so that a project makes sense. They bring a trusted face to business owners looking to save money and lower their carbon footprint. Thank you so much. Do you want to say a few words?
Yeah, I just had a few words drawn up. Yeah, we're honored to be a recipient of this award. Yes. Since 2008, Energy Smart has worked closely with Minnesota businesses across the state to help them identify and implement energy-efficient equipment and strategies and to reduce energy cost. As most of you know, the challenge of overcoming financial barriers is one of the main obstacles that prevent businesses from making a leap from standard to high-efficiency choices. This is especially true for small businesses and startups where extra capital is hard to come by, and energy efficiency usually ends up low on the priority list. Minneapolis Green Business Cost Share Program has proven to be a valuable tool allowing businesses to bring energy efficiency and environmental stewardship to the forefront. Thank you to the City of Minneapolis for making this program available to all businesses of all sizes. I'd also like to thank Minneapolis MTAP participants and Lake Street Council. Their work in partnership with Great Plains Institute on the energy coaching model has been instrumental in bridging the gap between local communities and technical assistance providers such as Energy Smart. I'd also like to thank Xcel Energy, Centerpoint Energy, and Center for Energy and Environment for their partnership in these efforts. Thank you again to the City of Minneapolis and your continued leadership in environmental stewardship and support of the local business community.
Speaking of the Center for Energy and the Environment, or CEE, I would like them to step up next. I think Chris Dufferin is here, maybe Jenny Edwards. Come on up here for a partnership award as well. CEE certainly been working on these issues well before we even created our program. Actually, they spun off originally as a city division within the City of Minneapolis. The Center for Energy and Environment works across the City of Minneapolis in assisting us in providing energy advice from their well-qualified engineers and energy experts. They are trusted program implementers, including our recent 4D program, which ties naturally affordable housing with energy efficiency improvement potentials. They also assisted us in rolling out a refrigeration pilot with Xcel Energy as part of our first in the nation clean energy partnership. Anytime we have a challenge with energy efficiency, we know we can count on CEE to help us and those we serve to overcome the barriers. CEE will continue to be a key partner across our organizations as the city embarks on transformative and essential work in climate change into the future. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you very much. As Councilmember Gordon mentioned, we were founded right here in this building, 1979. We were originally called the Minneapolis Energy Office before we spun off. And back then we were founded because of the energy crisis. And now here we are, years later, working together on trying to address the climate crisis. And I just want to thank actually the City of Minneapolis for their leadership in doing that. All the work you're doing on the policy front, on the program front, this program and so many other things. We're proud to be a partner of yours, and we look forward to working together in the future on so many other things. So thank you.
Thank you.
And Councilmember Cano gets to give the next couple awards. But don't worry, I'll be back in a little bit.
Looks awesome. Okay, so my name is Alondra Cano, 9th Ward Council Member, and we have here the next award is to the Environmental Initiative. So if we can have Bjorn and Bill join us at the front. Are you here today? Okay, beautiful. Okay, so the ethos of a public-private win-win approach to solving problems was inspired by Environmental Initiative's approach to their work. EI was another key creator of the Green Business Cost Share program when it first started. Their staff conduct and one-on-one outreach with our commercial and industrial partners to share opportunities and walk owners through hurdles was second to none. They also played a huge role in 2017 to add financial contributions to both the Don's Leather and Viking Cleaners projects. We couldn't have become a perk-free city without them. Thank you to the Environmental Initiative.
Yeah, Yeah, I could just really quick. Hi, everyone. Thank you so much to the City of Minneapolis. This is really an incredibly humbling award, and we just want to acknowledge all the effort that the city puts in commitment to worker public health and worker safety, and also the environment, and specifically PatrickHanlon for his efforts. Our organization, Environmental Initiative, we build partnerships to develop collaborative solutions to solve Minnesota's environmental issues. And really what we do is focus on proactive and voluntary actions that improve the environment, but also promote economic solutions and also public health. And you heard the numbers earlier. They speak for themselves. This program is second to none in the nation, and we should really take heart and be proud of what's going on here, because it's very unique and it's very special, and it shows what we can do when we work collaboratively together towards solutions. So thank you.
Sounds amazing. Thank you so much for being here. So the next award is to the Minnesota Technical Assistance Program. If we have Laura and her team come up, that would be great. Thank you, Laura, for being here. So the Minnesota Technical Assistance Program, MTAP, was another partner who was essential to creating the Green Business Cost Share Program. They assist us and the organizations we work with in quantifying reductions so we can all understand the return on investment in pollution reduction. MTAP strengthens our Minneapolis businesses and organizations by improving efficiency while saving money through energy, water, and waste reduction. They have embarked on focused work within environmental justice or green zone areas of Minneapolis, specifically in South Minneapolis. We hope to continue this focus in the Minneapolis green zones, both in north and south, as MTAP helps our businesses and organizations to be the cleanest and most efficient they can be. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. We're very honored to be here today, and we're very honored for this recognition. We really appreciate the opportunity to work with the City of Minneapolis to do outreach to businesses. That's what we've been doing for the last 35 years and what we hope to do for a long time to come. This partnership is truly special, as has been mentioned. Really, that support for businesses, both from the environmental and the economic development side, is critical for our strengthening our cities and creating jobs and a great quality of life here in Minneapolis. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks for being here. Are you done, Jeremy? Yeah.
And now we'll have Councilmember Jeremy Schrader come down.
Hey everybody, I'll be presenting the Partnership Award. I'm really excited to do this, especially to work with both the Wyndham Neighborhood Community Council as well as the Tingletown Neighborhood Association. They really started a new innovative way of solving the neighborhood problems around environmental issues. Both neighborhoods work with the owners and made financial contributions to assist Lamac Dry Cleaners alongside with the city in switching to a safer alternative to using PERC. I just want to thank the Wyndham Community Council as well as Tingletown Neighborhood Association. Hopefully Becky McIntosh can come up, and hopefully Mario is here as well to receive the award.
Do you want to say a few words, Becky? Okay.
Oh, we'll take, here, he's ready to take a picture. Okay.
I want to thank the city and the health department. I think this is a marvelous example of a really cool collaboration between neighborhood groups and the city to improve a business, a local business, our dry cleaners Lamac, and to improve the health of our neighborhoods by eliminating PERC. So, thank you.
Thanks so much, Becky. And, you know, I really want to say this was really led by neighborhoods. The neighborhood boards really were dogged about this. They really wanted to make sure that we could have the cleaner environment for their neighborhood. But it wouldn't have been possible without a receptive business owner that had this in his heart. And Lamac Cleaners, you know, they've been interested in making the switch away from FERC for a number of years. And in 2017, with the added support of the neighborhood associations, as well as the city, they were able to make that switch away from PERC for a safer environment and as well for the the neighborhood, surrounding neighborhood. So I want to thank Lamac Cleaners. Please have the owner, Nick Zakarda, up here to receive the award, if he's here. All right, well, he wasn't able to make it, so we really appreciate all that he's done, and I will hand it back over. Well, actually, I take that back. I will be also giving out the next partnership award for the East Isle Residents Association and Lowry Hill East Neighborhood Association. Hopefully Brad Ash and Paul Schenefeld are here. If you want to come on up. So while it's important to have innovative starters like the ones we have in Ward 11 at Tingletown and Wyndham, it's essential to have folks that are able to finish this and make sure that we're the first city that is perk-free. And that's especially true for East Isles Residents Association and the Lowry Hill East Neighborhood Association. These two organizations were able to come together and to support Osmond Cleaners with a financial contribution to make them have the commitment to switch from perk in a dry cleaning industry. This was the final push. That was also what made Minneapolis the first perk-free city in the United States. So let's give a round of applause.
So yeah, I mean, this was a no-brainer when it was brought to us. We could help our community, we could help a local business. Green initiatives are huge, and when our community gets better, all Minneapolis gets better. So we each make our little section a little bit nicer, and everyone wins. But we're really happy to partner with Lowry Hill and the city and Osmond Cleaners especially, and the Minneapolis Pollution Control Agency that helped with the financing and things. So thanks, Patrick, for kind of bringing this down to our attention.
Thanks. The Lowry Hill East Neighborhood Association takes tremendous pride in the environmental work that we do. And it's also one of our main priorities. And without the support of our environmental committee and our LENA board members, this wouldn't have been possible, as well as our partnerships with the city and with Osmond Cleaners. And this is a shining example of how the city and neighborhood partnerships can be effective in making sure that our cities are more sustainable and greener. Thanks.
Thanks.
Speaking of Osmond Cleaners, we want to make sure that the owner, Arif Osman, also gets an award. I don't know if he's here today, but come on up if you want to. Yeah, absolutely. So Osmond Cleaners was really a pioneer in all of this. This was the first dry cleaner in Minneapolis to switch away from perk early this year, and none of the dry cleaners in Minneapolis came to the decision for a major investment, and it does take a major investment in new dry cleaning equipment easily. And I think you were no exception, but you were gracious enough to host a small celebration at your dry cleaning operation in South Minneapolis, and I think that made a big impression on people. And we know it wasn't an easy decision, but thank you. And thank you to everybody in your organization for your commitment to your neighborhood and to making this a cleaner city.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. I just want to say that we were the last cleaners in the city of Minneapolis to be perk-free. It wasn't because we wanted to get that quote and unquote, the last cleaners, but, but because of the financial reasons, and that's why we finally went through, and had it not been for Patrick helping us out, this wouldn't have happened. And also thanking the city of Minneapolis, making it more green, and working with us at all times to achieve this goal. So I want to thank especially the city of Minneapolis and everyone who has helped us out. Thank you.
Thank you. The final dry cleaner, not the first. It was the first on my list, though. We have a couple other that we want to celebrate, too. These, I think, the next three are all Ward 2 businesses, and some of them on Lake Street, East Lake Street. The first one is Don's Leather Cleaning, and I think the president, Dart Pouch, is here to receive the award. Dart, the owner of Don's Leather Cleaning, made the commitment to go perk-free with the support of the city and environmental initiative. DART has also played a huge role in the development of our Green Business Cost Share program through the Minnesota Cleaners Association, and providing feedback to how to effectively meet the needs
of cleaners. More importantly, DART played an important role among others across the state in some of the original efforts to promote technologies that contained PERC and create a sustainable dry cleaning site remediation funding program. Because of efforts like yours, we now have financial tools across the state to clean up legacy pollution from PERC. Thank you so much.
We'll give a photo opportunity first. All right.
You got it?
You got it.
Thank you very much. I'm honored to accept this award, not only for Don's leather cleaning and rug laundry, but on behalf of the dry cleaning industry in Minneapolis. And I'd also like to thank the Minnesota Pollution Control Agency too, because they helped with low interest loans for these dry cleaners, which was a big help too. And of course, the Dry Cleaner Environmental Initiative, and also MTAP. Been working with MTAP since I was dating, and I've been married 43 years and got 10 grandchildren. But it seems that long anyway. Thank you to the PEC committee, the Minneapolis City Council, and PatrickHanlon. Your work, commitment, and assistance with grant money to purchase of new cleaning equipment helps ensure the viability of our shrinking yet viable industry. In 1994, there were 350 dry cleaners in Minnesota. Today, there's 120, and or about a third as many. However, despite this, the 8 cleaning Minneapolis operations who benefited from this grant program provides an important and integral and appreciated service to Minneapolis consumers and businesses and to the community. Since the start of this grant program, I have been fortunate to work on several occasions with PatrickHanlon as a cleaner, but also as a representative of the Minnesota Cleaners Association. He has always been considerate, professional, and willing to help. First and foremost, he understood that the cleaning machinery is the largest capital outlay for the dry cleaning company, as well as the single most important piece of equipment in a dry cleaning plant. In an industry where margins are very slim, forcing a major purchase without the availability of grant money would surely have put cleaners out of business and left their employees without jobs. Again, I would like to thank everybody involved in this for the small business owners. Thank you.
Next up is Viking Cleaners. I wonder if Samir is here to come down. Viking Cleaners made a significant commitment to move away from PERC in the dry cleaning process that required significant construction on site and coordinated effort with the building owners. It was not a decision they came to easily, and they had significant downtime in their operations to get everything in place. Viking is our only laundry and dry cleaning site switch that went through the Green Business Cost Share program. The customers who come in to do their laundry at Viking's Cleaners can now hang around and breathe easily due to the commitment of their owners. Thank you so much. Thank you.
I want to say thank you to everyone to be a part of this great gift. Also thank to the city and the state, local agencies. Viking Village Cleaners has been in Minneapolis since 1961. I acquired the property in 2009 and was able to put an end to the PERC monster this year. So I'm very glad and happy that we're part of this program. Thanks again to everyone.
Thank you for your work.
Next, we'd like to give out a Sustainable Business Award, and this is to Gandhi Mahal, and I think that Raul and Claire are maybe both here. You want to come up here? Wonderful. Gandhi Mahal doesn't just have sustainability as a nice talking point on their website. They walk the talk as they ensure to be the change in their community, in our city, and on this planet. They have aquaponics providing fresh produce and fish with partners like Spark Y to educate youth. They have initiated urban farming initiatives across the city. They have been taking incremental steps for waste reduction with an eye on a zero waste goal, and they have installed energy efficiency initiatives like the variable frequency dry ventilation system installed in 2017. This project was a partnership between Gandhi Mahal, the Green Business Cost Share Program, Lake Street Council, and Energy Smart. We are hoping more businesses follow suit with this technology that saves heat and electricity. Gandhi Mahal has already reduced their energy use 80%. To be honest, if we had more businesses like Gandhi Mahal in Minneapolis, we wouldn't even need our climate action goals. But as we haven't reached our climate action goals yet, Gandhi Mahal will probably be the place we will need to meet with the community to figure out how to reach them. They've been gracious hosts to many community-inspired meetings, and we are so grateful for the blessing they've been to this city. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Minneapolis City Council and the people who have supported us on our journey towards sustainability. I know there is a limited time, I need a little more time because I speak Banglish. My name is Mihaly Salam and I came all the way from Bangladesh to frozen Minnesota to please your palates. I believe we are all connected through food. The recipes that people enjoying at Gandhi Mahal have been in my family for generations. Today we use those same recipes with local ingredients to provide fresh, healthy, delicious food. Since the beginning, I always tell people, if you like what you do, tell a friend. If you don't like what you do, tell us and we'll work together to fix it. Working together is at the core of Gandhi Mahal's philosophy and how we build stronger, healthier communities that, like I call them, to fully fed communities. It is not easy to do business in another country, but Minneapolis has given me the opportunity to achieve my life dreams. Just because one comes from a different country doesn't mean one has to forget one's mother culture. I grew up farming fish and fishing. Now in Minnesota, I fish through holes in the ice instead of ponds. Now I farm fish in my basement using aquaponics. I want to thank entire City of Minneapolis staff, City Council members, partners, friends, and patrons. I believe together we will be able to make Minneapolis one of the best green cities in the world. Let's be the change. And I hope all will vote on Tuesday with their hearts and minds.
And next up is Councilmember Andrea Jenkins.
Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. And I just want to say congratulations to all of the award winners. And I'm going to announce the last award, the Solar Energy Award, which goes to A Chance to Grow. Co-founder Bob DeBoer. Is Bob here? Hello, Bob. How are you? A Chance to Grow is a school in northeast Minneapolis helping children and adults reach their highest potential. They have integrated environmental programming, including Jane Goodall's Roots and Shoots program, concentrating on conservation and humanitarian efforts, plus the Marlene Myers Gardens, bringing a hands-on approach to urban gardening with the state of Minnesota's smallest recognized forest. In 2017, they invested in a solar array that produces 50,000 kilowatts of clean, renewable energy every year with an interactive display for the kids at the school. It was the first time we tried incentivizing a solar program, and it prompted us to start a citywide solar incentive program in 2018. That program has gone on to help with 6,500,000 kilowatts of solar production in just a few short months in 2018 before the funds were completely exhausted. Thank you to A Chance to Grow for the investments you have made in your school and starting something big here in the city of Minneapolis. Thank you. Would you like to say a few words?
I want to congratulate the city council to have such clear leadership on this program. It just blew me away to know that a health department was leading this. Who ever heard of that? Working with the staff here has been incredible. They've all been very helpful. At A Chance to Grow, we work with kids from 0 to adults. And so maybe 10 years ago, we did our Marlene Meyer Green Garden. And we took a abandoned lot and installed 27 trees in a rain garden, in a forest, and granite pillars and gardens. And then the DNR works with schools to get involved in forests and help with caring for them. So yes, indeed, we have the smallest certified forest in the state of Minnesota. So it's just up in northeast Minneapolis. So if you ever want to visit or have a lunch, it's wonderful. You can see the IDS tower from this little forest, and the kids can take part of it. And it's important because a lot of children in Minneapolis don't get outside, don't get exposed to gardens. So it's a way to address that. But it's also a way to address a larger problem, and that is we've seen, working with disabled kids, that there's been an explosion of these kinds of live births. 25, 30 years ago, the incidence of autism was 1 in 2,000 births. Now, if you follow it at all, it's now down to 1 in maybe 100 births. So there's an explosion happening right before us, and we really believe at A Chance to Grow that's the environmental toxins that's contributing to all these health problems. So it's important to help raise people's awareness of that we need to take some action now. So again, thank the council and Patrick and his whole staff. Thank you.
Thank you.
Sorry, bear with me while I find my notes here. I'll close this up. There we go. That was great to hear all that. And I kept hearing people say my name. There's a whole team of folks involved in doing all this work, and so a lot of gratitude goes out to them for doing that work. I talk to my team here, and I sometimes hear the claim by those in government to remember that government work is honorable. And I like to remind my team that that isn't necessarily true. Our work is as honorable as we make it. And as you can see today, good work, public or private, is honorable. It's really humbling to see the great work going on around Minneapolis. And I do believe if we look at this program now, as we did in 2012 when it first started, and that if we believe that we are just starting, we can leverage support of each other's work, that even climate change is not too big of a topic to be solved when we work together. Council members, as the embodiment of the people of Minneapolis, thank you so much for entrusting us with this work and supporting everyone here in this work. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for that presentation and the award ceremony. It's really amazing to be able to see all of the work that's happening throughout the city. The folks, we talk really big about climate change. It's this very big idea, but the way that we change, the way we interrupt what's happening is individuals making differences where they can in their own spaces. And what we have seen is remarkable change in a rather short period of time as a result of the folks in this room. I also want to be able to, as a city council member and the chair of this committee, be able to give a really big heartfelt thank you to Patrick for your leadership on this. You were definitely a common thread. So can we please give Patrick Hanlon a big round of applause? one of the best things about being a city council member is that I get the wonderful fortune of being able to see how brilliant city staff are and underappreciated city staff are. Patrick is exceptional, and we are very fortunate to have city employees like him who truly connect and get the issues. So thank you, everyone. And I would like to see if my colleagues have any final questions or comments. All right, seeing none, thank you again, everyone. Seeing no questions or comments, I move to receive and file this item. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed say no. The ayes have it, and that item is filed and received. I want to make sure that folks get the opportunity before they, where is maybe this posting? She's going to make a presentation. Great. I'm going to go ahead and pass it over as well here.
Thank you, Peace Committee, and thank you, Committee Chairman Cunningham, for this honor to present the Minneapolis Building Energy Challenge Awards. So my name is Katie Jones, and I have the privilege of working with the City of Minneapolis's Energy Benchmarking Program, and that means that I get to help buildings measure their energy performance so they can better manage it. We know that better management can hopefully lead towards better energy efficiency and lower costs and better and more sustainable operations in our buildings. And so for the past 4 years, we've been working on a program called the Minneapolis Building Energy Challenge, and you'll see, if you found this little handout at the kind of sign-in table, it gives a little synopsis of what the Building Energy Challenge is, and it's basically a test or a dare to buildings. Can you save 15% in greenhouse gas emissions from 2014 to the year 2020? And I'm happy to say that over 75% of the buildings that were participating have achieved that goal. So I think that just deserves a round of applause right there. And I want to mention that this year, according to my clock, it's 2018, and the goal was in 2020. So these buildings have achieved that goal 2 years in advance. So that's really proof of their dedication, and proof to also to the fact that the market values energy efficiency, and that we've got great examples here for other buildings throughout the city to emulate. So. Yeah, take out your cheat sheets. We're going to be going through each building one by one in that order. So I'd like to first ask for Angela, Jane, and Josh to come up, as well as anyone else on your team from Butler Square, as we recognize them. So let's go ahead and step up. Thank you. Thank you so much. So go ahead and give them a round of applause. So Butler Square is just one of the most phenomenal buildings in our city. They have one of the lowest EUIs, or energy use intensities, of any office building in the city. And over the past 4 years, they've reduced their greenhouse gas emissions 28% from 2014. That's phenomenal. So thank you so much for your work. And I'd actually like to ask you to just move on down, and as more buildings come up, I want to get one big picture of everyone, just to highlight all of the work that's been going on here. So next, I'd like to call up Angela Richter and Nicole Levere from Calhoun Square. So if you all know, Calhoun Square is a mall in Uptown. So I'll go ahead and give you this. Yes, and you can go inside and stay warm. And you normally wouldn't think of a mall that would be interested in energy efficiency. And these two to date have been phenomenal on trying to dig everywhere that they possibly can, not only in their common spaces, but actually within the tenant spaces as well, making sure that the tenant spaces have programmable thermostats, are changing out their lights, and making sure those places are as energy efficient as possible so that their retail spaces can thrive. So thank you so much for your work. Next, I'd like to call up one of my favorite building operators in a very historic building, Igor Malabit. He's with City Hall, and Igor is I don't know if you've ever met him, if you work in City Hall. He's the lifeblood to me of this building. He has so many good stories about this building. And anyway, City Hall has saved 18% over the last 4 years. They've done a number of terrific projects, including, you probably saw within the last couple of years, giant LED project on this clock tower. Have done a lot of occupancy sensors and just making sure that we're utilizing our energy here as efficiently as possible. So thank you so much, Igor.
Thank you.
All right. If you want to go ahead and slide on down. Next is Nicholas Grew here. Okay. Well, for De La Salle High School, I'd like to recognize them for saving 17% on their greenhouse gas emissions. So thank you very much. So De La Salle High School has been a forerunner and when it comes to schools and energy efficiency. They've got a green team that I've visited, and they're very excited to learn about the difference between a kilowatt hour and a therm. And they're really taking that to heart with their solar array on top of the building, but not just doing the things that are that make the news like solar. They're also working on switching out their boilers from 1958 and upgrading their lighting. So they're doing phenomenal work over at De La Salle. All right. Let's move on to Hennepin County, the Forensic Science Building. So Leah Henneker and Brian Morris, among others on the team. So go ahead, yeah. So thank you, Leah. All right. So Forensic Science Building, maybe a lot of you probably don't know where this building is. It's actually right by the U.S. Bank Plaza. And, doing forensic science actually is a very intensive building use. And so the fact that this team dedicates themselves to doing continuous commissioning and trying to run the building as efficiently as possible, it really does show the county's dedication to reducing greenhouse gas emissions. So thank you so much to Leah and the rest of your team. All right, the county actually has a second building that we want to recognize, the Hennepin County Government Center. So I know Steve is another building operator there. Oh, Steve's in. All right, great. Yeah. Thank you very much. So you can see it kind of takes a village to run a building in a way. I don't know at the government center, but I know City Hall has over 60 staff that take care of running the building. How many are at government center? Is about the same? Wow, 18 total at government center. So it's a lot of people, but also that's a lot of things on your hands. So at Hennepin County, they've been doing a lot of lighting and controls updates, as well as focusing on that data center. Data centers are energy hogs, so making sure that those are efficient as well are very important. So thank you so much for that. All right, go ahead and give them a round of applause. All right. Yeah, maybe squish a little bit. All right, we've got the next building is another city building, the Minneapolis Convention Center. So Mark Zerbel. Minneapolis Convention Center, you'll see that there's a giant number there of 61%. That's just phenomenal. So that's not only energy efficiency, that's also made up of the fact that they're sourcing all of their electricity from wind and solar. So you can see if we use renewables, that also has a drastic result on our greenhouse gas emissions. So thank you very much. All right, we have one more city building, and that's going to be represented by Brian Milberg, the Royalston Maintenance Facility. All right. There you go, Brian. So the Royalston Maintenance Facility has been doing a lot of lighting as well, but also focusing on those very like what we would call mundane operational things, such as making sure your set points are at the right temperatures, and that that you're scheduling your building so that it's only producing the right temperature when the building is occupied. So I thank you for focusing on the things that make the buildings efficient every day. So thank you, Brian. Next up, we have a campus, the Wells Fargo Minneapolis campus. So John and Janet. You'll also notice here that they have a giant number, and that's because they've been doing lots of work and they're sourcing their electricity from renewables. So Wells Fargo has really been a leader in doing that. So I appreciate that, all the LEDs that they've been putting in. They've really, since they have a campus, they take really a property approach to their heating and cooling. It's not just individual buildings, it's how can we share the heating and cooling load to make sure it's the most efficient. So thank you very much for that. And last but not least, we have Ann Snyder from the hospital parking ramp. Excellent. So the hospital parking ramp, you usually wouldn't think of parking ramps as using a lot of electricity. Thank you very much. But actually, if you think of all the lighting, there is quite a bit of load there. So over the past, since 2010, the hospital parking ramp has been working to steadily improve the lighting that's in there. So, there's the first generation fluorescents, and now we're on to LEDs. And so I thank you for continuing to look at that and not just saying, oh, yeah, check, we've done that, continuing to look for savings. So thank you so much. All right. All right. So if we could kind of squish together, and we can maybe form two lines in a way. Yeah, maybe form two rows over here a little bit. So coming this way. Oh wow, this is not, okay. Smushing's not gonna, Brady, can you get us all in? Brady, can you maybe go Vomitus? And I think you'll be able to get us from the side like a Vomitus. Energy efficiency. All right. So thank you so much, and one more round of applause to all of our award winners.
Thank you so much for that. Thank you so much, everyone, for your hard work on out in the community and on the buildings. Thank you, everyone, for your leadership. So on that note, I also want to make sure that I thank city staff at CEE for all their hard work on this. I mean, really quite a high level of compliance. And I see Councilmember Gordon.
Well, I had a really small question. We talked a lot about the hospital parking ramp, but I don't think we articulated which hospital it goes with. Is this the one downtown by HCMC? Is Katie still here? Yes, it is? Okay. So that's the Hennepin County Hospital parking ramp. Go Hennepin County. Thank you.
Great, thank you. Are there any other questions or comments from my colleagues? All right, seeing no further, I move to receive and file this item. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. All opposed, say no. The ayes have it, and that item is received and filed. So now we have quite a robust consent agenda today, full of lots of good work happening throughout the city. So our first consent agenda item is the authorizing the submittal of a grant application for $4.87 million over a 5-year period for a community-based Healthy Starts program to reduce racial and ethnic disparities and perinatal health outcomes. That's really addressing particularly Black families and addressing infant mortality in the Black community. The second consent item is authorizing the submittal of a grant application to the Minnesota Department of Health in the amount of $4.6 million over 4 years for the evidence-based home visiting program to improve outcomes for pregnant families. Item number 3 is the approving updates to the Minneapolis Healthy Food Policy to be in alignment with the Fitwell standards so that we can actually have that in our new public service building. Number 5 is MOUs with the United States and State of Minnesota Departments of Labor to promote compliance with the minimum wage laws in Minneapolis. Our fifth consent item is the Commission on Civil Rights Appointments, setting a public hearing for our last meeting of the year, November 26, 2018, to consider appointments to the Commission on Civil Rights. Number 6 is authorizing a contract in the amount of $100,000 with Tool for coordinated public outreach to low-wage workers and collaborative and strategic enforcement of labor regulations. Just to let folks know on that really quick, this is an exciting, innovative approach to being able to make sure that workers who we are really passing these workers' rights protections for are actually able to leverage and access them. And there is relationships and trust already built between, say, Tool and between low-wage workers in particular. So by building this inside-outside strategy, again, with community-based organizations, folks on the ground, that is how we're going to really be able to see some good work happening. Our seventh consent agenda item is the Workplace Advisory Committee appointments. Number 9 is a number of 2018 One Minneapolis funding recommendations. This is really great, exciting work around helping to diversify the City of Minneapolis's boards and commissions, as well as developing leadership in marginalized communities. Some really, really great organizations here that are included. The 9th consent agenda item is accepting the donation of travel and lodging related expenses to the Johns Hopkins Bloomberg School of Public Health for the inaugural Bloomberg American Health Initiative Summit in DC. Number 10 is authorizing a contract with Tree Trust in the amount of $100,000 for tree planting services under the city's Trees program. Number 12 is setting a public hearing for November 26, 2018 for the creation of the Office of Violence Prevention. And the last consent agenda item is setting a public hearing for November 26th to consider amendments to the Staple Food Ordinance. On those 12 items, do any of my colleagues have any questions or wish to pull any items from the consent agenda? All right, seeing none, I move approval of the consent agenda. All those in favor of the motion, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed say no. The ayes have it, and those items are approved. I just want to take a quick moment to say thank you, city staff, for all that work. There's a lot of really amazing work happening there. So next, we get to have a very fun, exciting conversation that I'm excited to be presented with. We are going to be receiving and filing a presentation on the Homegrown Minneapolis Report. We have Tamara Down-Schwei, Food Policy Coordinator with who will begin our presentation, and we are also fortunate enough to have Emily Lund, Executive Director of Neighborhood Roots, Devon Nolan, Manager of the West Broadway Farmers Market, Christine Novotny, Program Manager of the Mill City Farmers Market, and Joe Nowak of the Farmers Market Metrics Project with the U of M. So I'm going to hand it over to Tamara. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Chair Cunningham and council members. It's really an honor to be here today with the colleagues you mentioned, as well as many of our other farmers market collaborators who are in the room, and on a day when so much excitement around sustainability is part of the chambers. Glad to have the chance to talk about the farmers markets and our urban ag and food business support work in that context, which is all connected. So I will be giving you a quick overview of the initiative around the farmers markets of Minneapolis, as well as a couple shorter updates on some other initiatives initiatives. And we'll take some time, since this is the most amazing, authentic collaboration happening, to have some other voices share about the work as well. So I think you all know Homegrown Minneapolis City Community Partnership, founded just about 10 years ago, helping improve the community's ability to grow, process, distribute, eat, and compost more healthy, sustainable, and locally grown food. Farmers markets are doing nearly all of those goals in their work, and so we'll be talking a bit about that today, as well as some quick updates on the Garden Lease program and the Homegrown Small Business Fund. Thank you. So there's a lot on this slide, which I will not reiterate for you, but I think some real quick snapshots of how we got today to be here wearing our team colors, the red aprons, which were in part funded by city support, with the logo you'll hear about, funded through the General Mills Foundation. We over a number of years, there were markets for over 100 years in Minneapolis operating. I know we have the Minneapolis market manager in the room as well, and as more markets grew and grew, there were a number of conversations that really became more formal in the Homegrown Minneapolis recommendations about formalizing a more structured collaboration and more support for farmers markets. And a number of things did transpire that really helped the farmers markets as a result of that. And there were some opportunities still left on the table that kind of came back to the foray when there were a city council member and Devon Nolan, a food council co-chair, and I know Councilmember Cano and Devon had a lot of really amazing things to share back from the Barcelona Public Markets Conference, which we were able to discuss at the McKnight Foundation, and really then catalyzed another conversation among us that brought in the University of Minnesota and a conversation about metrics, and the city saying, where are the numbers? And we all agreed, where are the numbers? And there were a number of people who were collecting metrics on their markets already in the city of Minneapolis and partnering with other universities. And so we got together, the university had a researcher, Hikaru Peterson, who was not able to join us today, who together with our managers had a phone call with the Farmers Market Coalition, and that really led to the formation of a metrics project that you'll hear more about, which is now in its, I think, third or fourth year. We've got a marketing campaign. We've got an amazing array of in-kind and other funding partners who have helped us to build a more visible and informed partnership. And we have a strategic plan that was developed and approved through city funding as well. So I'm going to have my collaborator share more about the different dimensions of the partnership that we have been able to build to date, and kind of some next steps from here. So I'm excited to introduce Joe Nowak from the Metrics Project at the U of M.
Thank you, Tamara. Happy to be here representing the University of Minnesota in this the Farmers Market Metrics Project, which is just want to take a minute to point out that the Farmers Market Metrics Project is a 3-year USDA funded grant. It's not just Minneapolis, but this collaborative is what made it happen. And it's really unique in terms of a food system assessment. And talking to folks all across the country, farmers markets are a really tricky thing to collect data on. It's direct sale. A farmer could pick crops that morning, and with the exchange of cash, customer goes home with a bag of tomatoes or radishes, and there's no way of tracking that. Farmers markets are way more important than I think any of us in this room recognize to the local food economy, and this project is really helping not only Minneapolis find out how important they are, but also potentially this project can really show how Minneapolis can act as a model for others around the country to understand the importance of farmers markets in their communities. Happy to be here in behalf of Hikaru Peterson, who Tamara mentioned at the University of Minnesota Applied Econ Department. She is really taking a special liking to this project. She's kind of borrowing from some other methods around the country, and we're together with the collaborative and the metrics project finding a way to start to really understand the importance of farmers markets in your community. Thank you.
I'm now excited to introduce our collaborator, Christine Novotny from the Mill City Farmers Market.
Hello, council members, nice to be here. I'd like to talk a little bit about the marketing campaign and how we're getting the word out about the farmers markets in Minneapolis. First off, we have our page on Facebook. It was launched in 2017 through the support of the General Mills Foundation, and through sponsored ads, we've cultivated more than 6,300 followers and have posted paid and unpaid ads, engaging more than 200,000 customers over the past year alone. Just before the 2018 Farmers Market season opened in May, we launched the Farmers Market of Minneapolis website, and that's a website that you can go onto and find your local neighborhood farmers market. If you're a SNAP EBT customer, you can learn how market bucks work and the match program there. We also had a citywide bus shelter ad campaign. One of the pictures on the screen is an example of that ad. That had a huge reach, an estimated 3 million people just in the short time that we had it up. We also had radio ads on more than 8 local radio stations. All of them are listed up on the screen. Those ran in May and in September and October. May to announce the opening of the farmers markets, and September, October, as we see numbers start to drop off because people are going back to school, like it's busy again, but it's the time of most abundance for our farmers. And lastly, collateral, like this beautiful apron that I am wearing, goes with everything. And then we had signs, aprons, bags. One of them was actually seen in a DC airport, so our reach is far. Just trying to get the word out about the great work that we're doing as a collaborative, working together with all markets. So thank you. Next, I would like to introduce Devon Nolan, the manager of the West Broadway Farmers Market.
Thank you, Christine. Good afternoon, Chair Cunningham and Peace Committee members. My name is Devon Nolan. I'm with Appetite for Change. I manage the West Broadway Farmers Market in North Minneapolis, and we've collaborated to provide trainings and technical assistance to remove barriers and build capacity with market vendors and market managers. We provided training on food safety, food finance, cottage food law, farmers market nutrition program certification for more than 50 vendors and market managers this year. Oftentimes the question around food access and healthy food access is the biggest challenge, accessibility or affordability, and we know that it's both. We've supported market implementation of SNAP EBT and Market Bucks, the Power of Produce, which is a kids club where they get their own token each week to come and pick out what they want for produce. It's a great opportunity for us to address the issues around childhood obesity and promoting healthy eating habits in our children early. We also launched a fruit and vegetable prescription program, and that again, removing the barrier of affordability, we find that people really want to consume more fruits and vegetables. We partnered with Medica on the Healthy Savings Program, the Farmers Market Nutrition Program, which allows us to accept WIC vouchers at the farmers markets, and several other programs helping kids and families access and learn about fresh fruits and vegetables. Next, I'll introduce Emily Lund, who's the Executive Director of Neighborhood Roots.
Hello. I'm Emily Lund. I'm the Executive Director of Neighborhood Roots. We run Kingfield, Fulton, and Nokomis Farmers Markets in South Minneapolis. I wanted to bring our attention to how we create that direct connection between producers and consumers. So it's not only about the access to healthy food from the consumer's perspective, but the access to these markets from the producer's perspective. So this is a short list of some of the food businesses that have been incubated, launched, really started to thrive at our farmers markets. The farmers market model is pretty unique because it keeps the overhead relatively low and the margins relatively high, as opposed to starting straight to a retail or wholesale business model. This is particularly valuable for entrepreneurs that may experience discrimination from lending institutions or other gatekeepers to getting that retail shelf space. So I just wanted to bring our attention to thinking about all of the businesses, the dollars that stay in our local community with the direct sale model that we have at the farmers markets. Thank you.
So a little summary of all the wonderful things you just heard up on the screen here, and I might be burying the headline a little bit by just bringing this out now, but $12 million is what we learned through the metrics project that our markets generate at a minimum. It's a conservative estimate with our first year of full metrics collection, and we'll have another report after this year. Just for some comparison, I think in the most recent year, the East Side Food Co-op had about 15 million in sales. So think about business like that, and we are very similar, but it's decentralized, disaggregated across the city, but having a really major impact on the food business development and the eaters of our city. We supported more than 5,000 full and part-time jobs, more than 10,000 agricultural acres, 1.2 million visitors to the markets, and more than 50 fruits and vegetable varieties were sold. And so there's really something for everybody, and a lot of vegetables that you might not find in a typical grocery store that are connecting people to cultural foods that are very important to them. So we're just really excited to be together in this collaboration now for several years, and looking ahead to the next years, we're looking at formalizing the collaborative and more operational collaboration that could help some back of the house efficiencies and other ways that the markets could be even more sustainable, both in their kind of operational costs as well as their ability to effectively reach the customers and serve the vendors as well. So that is kind of the summary of the farmers market work, but just stay tuned. There will be more, as I said, next year. We're excited to be here for the first time really talking about this project, as it was really developing over the course of several years, and the city has been a major investor in that, not just through my time, but through CPED and health and other departments. We had urban scholars the last 2 years that have helped the work. So really multi-department partnership, multi-sectoral partnership, and really a lot of the managers in the room today showing how we've all really kind of been committed together to the work. So real quick update, the Garden Lease Program is another homegrown initiative in partnership with CPED, Public Works, Health, and some other departments from time to time. This year, we were thrilled to partner with the Minnesota Horticultural Society and the Health Department and distribute more than 80 garden in a box kits to gardeners on city garden lots. We distributed more than 1,000 donated seed packets, and also in partnership with Health and the Minnesota State Health Improvement Partnership, distributed more than $10,000 in tools and equipment for gardeners, as was the same for the Garden in a Box through the funding there. So lots of really great activity. Our Claire, who's not up here presenting with us today, our program aide, really did amazing work with our urban scholar and other partners, going out and visiting nearly all the gardens, taking photos, had meetings with almost 30 garden sponsors, and we have a kind of report on insights we learned, including all the amazing vegetables that people are able to grow as a result of having access to this land that they wouldn't find normally in the grocery store, and engaging with their family on this land. So we are still leasing more than 50 gardens, but still dealing with some policy pressure on the sale of land, and that's something that has continued to come up for us. The policies that are supporting the garden lease program, as well as those through sales of side yards and other developable lands, putting pressure on our ability to maintain the access to these lots for gardening that has been so important to the community. Finally, Homegrown Small Business Fund. This is a partnership with CPED and the Metropolitan Consortium for Community Developers as a lending partner, and we will have a presentation with CPED and also with some other new partners of our grant pilot. So we have the Homegrown Loan, which is administered through MCCD, but the grant pilot was with United Way and Neon, and this will be discussed more fully at Neon on November 14th. Fortunately, same time as the comp plan hearing, but we will be happy to report back on that about updates on the Homegrown Small Business Fund. We have a brochure in development and a new webpage that will give that more sunlight, daylight as far as a resource for the community. These are loans up to $10,000 for a food business to be able to support their endeavor, including packaging or things even like working capital that can be hard to access. So we want to be sure that people know this is a resource for food businesses, and the grant pilot in the Promise Zone with Neon and United Way is specifically targeted to helping provide resources to under-resourced food entrepreneurs, and helping the city through that partnership with CPED and sustainability to learn through that pilot on how we can better support food entrepreneurs. And so we'll have some report back on that over the next year.
Actually, can I jump in real quick with a question? So I was curious, so does that include restaurants, or is it just food producers and distributors?
Good question. It does not include restaurants at this point. It's funded through the 2% loan program, and that provides a lot of funding to brick and mortar restaurants, but this specific fund is targeted toward makers of food products, and then expanded to some food kind of growers as well. So, yeah.
Great. Thank you for that clarification.
That is all I have to share with you today. I just wanted to take a moment to acknowledge all of the in-kind and funding partners and all of your investment through the honor of supporting the collaborative through my position, as well as all of the funding that's helped our work. Any questions?
Yes, thank you so much. A lot of really wonderful work here that's happening and really capturing innovative work that can just fly under the radar that systems can miss. And so I really appreciate you constantly digging in, folks being really plugged in with the city. So I had a quick question. I was curious about what kind of engagement Hmong farmers have had with all of this work.
I think that has been different from year to year, and most recently this year we've engaged partnership with CAPI as well as Lao Assistance Center and some other support from NCR through Michael Yang's work to go and do a visit with all of the gardens that have Hmong gardeners and make sure that we have people who can hear what we need to hear about where the barriers are and where the impact and opportunity has been. And so we are going to have more formal partnership to speak of in the next weeks on that, but really great partnership with these organizations and staff to reach out.
Great, thank you. I can say in the 4th Ward that we have a large representation of Hmong folks, and over the summer, if you're driving around while folks are gardening, a huge portion of folks who are out gardening are Hmong folks. And so I just want to make sure, oftentimes I feel like we don't include Hmong folks in the conversation around different things, and so just seeing and knowing how farming is such a staple in that community. All right, I have a question or comment from Councilmember Gordon.
Thank you very much, and I really appreciate the report and all the details on the farmers markets and seeing some old familiar friends. I haven't been on the food policy for a little bit, but was there for a long time, and it's all, the work is near and dear to my heart. I wanted to ask about the garden lease program. Are most of the community gardens and the other gardens that are market gardens that are leased, is that on city-owned property?
All of the lots that we call the garden lease program are city-owned property. In the whole city of Minneapolis, there are about 300 community gardens, of which about 50 to 60 are on city land, and that's when we talk about the Minneapolis garden lease program, what we are referring to city-owned public works and CPED-owned parcels.
Well, I couldn't help but notice in the written staff report, the request for council action, you weren't mincing any words when you said these policies should be reviewed for potential modification to better support the ongoing work of the garden lease program, referring to our city policies. So I'd like to refer that matter to the Housing Policy and Development Committee, because that's really where the program got set up. That's where the policies are set. And if we need to modify them, I also noticed in the slides it said impede, policies that impede. We don't want that happening. So we want to be careful. I know that we are concerned about housing and city land and its value and what it's worth, but I understand if we don't have some kind of stability with the community gardens, that just creates more of a problem and less likelihood we'll have people investing in them in the market gardens and providing food. So I'll make the motion I could move to receive and file the report if that would be easier, but I also want to make sure that we refer that item about the Minneapolis Garden Lease Program to the HPD committee.
All right, so I will go ahead and we have a motion on the table from Councilmember Gordon to refer this item to the HPD committee for the next cycle, I'm assuming?
Yeah, however quickly we can, I'll have to defer to the clerk if it has to bounce off the council again. But we can refer right to the committee from here?
All right, so we'll go ahead and the Housing Policy and Development Committee. Do any colleagues have any questions or comments on that motion? Okay, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye. 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 Those opposed say no. The ayes have it, and this item is being referred to HPD in the upcoming cycle. And I have a question or comment from Councilmember Schrader.
Well, first off, I look forward to having that conversation, because it's something that there is a lot of development pressure to have affordable housing and have urban agriculture and have access to food sovereignty. And I just have to stress that it cannot be an or. We really have to figure out a way to do both of these things at the same time. So I'm really excited to dive into that. Also, just kind of wanted to thank you for this work, because I think that it isn't always measured, and we get on a lot of top lists for a lot of the great work we do in the city. But with the threat we face from climate change, like, top list doesn't do us a whole lot of good. Like, we really need to keep doing the work to inspire and to lead other cities. So I want to thank you, because I feel like that's exactly the way we think about it, and mainly that is the work you do. So thank you.
Great, thank you. Any other questions or comments from my colleagues? All right, seeing none, thank you so much, everyone, for your presentation and your time today. I move to receive and file this item. All those in favor of the motion, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed say no. The ayes have it, and that item is received and filed. And for our final discussion item of today, we will be having a presentation that relates to the Americans with Disabilities Action Plan report. We have Nick Nyo from from Neighborhood and Community Relations Department, who is our ADA Language Access Coordinator, who will be giving our presentation. Oh, actually, we have Mr. Rubador, who's going to be kicking it off. Thank you.
Chair Cunningham and committee members, good afternoon. David Rubador, Director of the Neighborhood and Community Relations Department, and I also serve as the city's Americans with Disabilities Act Title II Coordinator. So I'm just going to do a brief introduction today of what is being presented, and then Nick No, as the chair has indicated, will actually carry the bulk of the presentation. On an annual basis, the NCR department brings back to the City Council an update on our Americans with Disabilities Action Plan and the work that's being done. And so I'm going to touch base just briefly on the legal requirements, and then Nick's going to go a little bit more deeper into actually what's in the action plan, what's been accomplished over this past year, and a little bit about the infrastructure that exists within the city. This is really a strong partnership between multiple departments in the city that are really responsible for ensuring that people with disabilities have access to our programs and services, which includes the property services, the IT department, communications, Public Works, among others. So it is a robust plan that we have for you. Today's actual action that is requested is really a receive and file of the annual report, but we're also asking for a one-year extension of the current plan. The current plan is 3 years in duration. We have a significant component of it that is actually proposed to be implemented next year in 2019. So we're asking for the current plan to be extended a year, and then in 2019 we'll be coming back with a new revised, updated plan for the following 3 years. Just to refresh everybody's memory, the legal requirements around the Americans with Disabilities Act, this is a civil rights law that was passed in 1990, really with the intent on ensuring that people with disabilities have access and inclusion to all levels of society. It really requires that the city take a strong look at barriers for equal access and identify ways to be able to address and remove those barriers. The ADA actually has 5 titles, which it includes. The City of Minneapolis is subject to Title II, the section that is relating to state and local government agencies. It also tends to be the most restrictive or the most aggressive form of the Americans with Disabilities Act. In essence, government is held to the highest standard of accomplishing this work. So Title II prohibits discrimination and ensures equal access for people with disabilities in all programs and services, which align very well with the City of Minneapolis's goals around equity and building public trust. That plan itself was actually adopted in 2016 and was intended to be a 3-year plan from 2016 to 2018. As I mentioned, we're going to ask for it to be extended just 1 more year. A lot has been accomplished over the course of these past couple of years in updating the city's Americans with Disabilities Act work. This is, as the document stands right now, is a comprehensive policy document with identified strategies to remove physical, communication, and policy barriers. With that, I'm going to hand it over to Mr. No to go through the plan components and the work that's been done.
Good afternoon, council members. My name is Nick No. I'm the ADA Language Access Coordinator with the Neighborhood and Community Relations Department. Good afternoon. Great to have you here. Oh, thank you. As Director Rubador has mentioned, we developed this plan in partnership with a lot of city departments, recognizing that this is a system-wide approach. And we do this with one basic operating philosophy, and that is accessibility benefits everyone. It's inclusionary work, it's equity work. And the term accessibility is a very special term to communities with disabilities, primarily because of the space design, the program design, and the communications design of how we operate and work with folks with disabilities as well. So when we talk about accessibility, that's really what those particular components are. So we have a few different ways that we approach this level of work. NCR is primarily responsible for Title II of the Disabilities Act in regards to making sure that we comply, but recognizing that we, as a solo department, cannot do this work alone. We forged and created strategic partnerships with our city departments. So the plan has three primary components. The physical aspect of the plan is managed by Property Services, who overlooks our facilities and city leased buildings. Public Works, who manages our public right-of-ways, streets, sidewalks, and then NCR, who oversees our programs and services. And that also follows policies, ordinance change, and then NCR, myself, support our Minneapolis Advisory Committee on People with Disabilities. So we have a very systems-wide approach to making sure that, one, we not only comply with Title II with the ADA, but find strategies, best practices to be inclusive of people with disabilities. So traditionally, with an ADA plan that was passed in 1990, state and local governments were mandated to create a transition plan and to create one and pass one by 1993. The city of Minneapolis did that, and that really what that was is a identification of our physical barriers, how we were going to fix those barriers, and what the costs and timelines behind that was. That was our last transition plan. I believe we completed most of that, but then outside of that, the Department of Justice did not give any guidance on when cities were to update those particular plans. So back in 2015, Property Services took it upon themselves to hire a consultant and review our city physical spaces where we operate and provide programs and services. So with that, when we were doing our evaluation of programs and services, Property Services completed theirs, and they created the basic mechanism for a transition plan in terms of what our physical deficiencies are, what their barriers are, and how they will take care of that. In 2017, they completed phase one items. Phase one is what we would call the low-hanging fruits. Changing the height of a mirror inside a restroom, maybe adding some grab bars. And then in 2018, they took on phase two of their transition plan, and those are pretty much the low to medium deficiencies that they wanted to remove, but took a little bit more budget and planning. And what that was ongoing restroom modifications, as well as working on the entrances and sidewalks to those particular facilities as well. The larger projects for our police, fire station, where we actually deliver a lot of our programs and services, were also put into consideration, and I believe they will be completed in 2019. So a lot of that is physical alterations and modifications. Looking forward, we have a few new buildings that would be created by us within the city, and when we wanted to put accessibility at the part of that integral planning. The new downtown office building is probably one of the most publicized parts of those plans. And Property Service has been very kind in working with us, as well as the Advisory Committee of People with Disabilities, to find not only ways to meet building code and federal guidelines, but finding ways to go beyond those as well, such as creating sensory rooms, looking at our public service center, and how we serve folks with disabilities in those particular areas. Moving on to our right-of-ways, which is a very large part of the city in terms of how people get around, how they access public services, our parks, other buildings, restaurants. Public Works manages the particular maintenance of that area in conjunction with the state and county. And they, in 2018, have upgraded over 300 pedestrian curb ramps or right-of-ways, as well as installed 35 different audible pedestrian signals at signalized intersections. And then built 4.3 miles of new sidewalks throughout reconstruction projects. A new program that they integrated into 2018 is a sidewalk gap program. That was something that was not in existence before. That was an issue for not only mobility impaired people, but just folks in general. So through that program, they installed in about the first year, they were able to fill in sidewalk gaps between Chicago 44th and 46th Street East. As mentioned, a third component of the ADA plan is actually the Public Works ADA transition plan as well. In 2012, they sought out to create a transition plan for the pedestrian right-of-way. They drafted a plan, but it was never fully passed to council. When we started our evaluation, they flagged that as an area that they needed to evaluate more of their programs, policies, and services. So they are in the midst of creating that transition plan right now, and it's on the timeline to be before council in 2019. As mentioned, NCR is really the stewards of Title II. We work with multiple city departments to make sure, one, we provide access to our city programs, services, and activities. We do that through reviewing different policies, procedures, and then finding ways to enhance those particular areas so we can include people with disabilities into our city services and operations. Examples of how we do that was a partnership with the MPD, making sure that we provide what's called video remote interpreting services into their protocols so that when they are engaging with folks that are deaf and hard of hearing, they can access a interpreter actually through their cell phones to do an intermediary interaction until they could get an on-site interpreter. We worked with environmental health and reg services on service animal procedures and policies. And we also have a very great relationship with plan review and CPED to make sure that we review commercial spaces when they ask for it on accessibility guidelines. This last year, we were looking at destination elevators and elevators in general and what the policies are behind there for blind and low vision folks. We also provide support to our city colleagues as well. We provide training on disability awareness, a foundational course around different communities with disabilities, the interactions, stigmas, myths. We also provide accessible content training as well through the Science Museum of Minnesota. And then we also provide auxiliary services in terms of deaf-blind as well as American Sign Language interpreters. And then we manage what's called our ADA grievance procedures under Title II of the ADA. State and local government agencies are supposed to implement a grievance procedure system. We work with 311 on that. They collect a lot of what would be called ADA complaints, recognizing that there's no clear navigation panel for a lot of residents. So even though we may not manage those particular areas, we work with the residents to find the appropriate departments or state agencies or local government agencies or private entities. Just last year, we worked with the Timberwolves and the Lynx, as well as a Target Center on program access. The city updated the Target Center over the last few years, which is up to code, but then we kind of overlooked the program access of it for folks with disabilities as well. Even though it's not our particular area to enforce ADA codes for small businesses, we get a lot of inquiries from small businesses on what's compliance and how to improve their space. So we take those calls in and then connect them to either a lawyer or consultants that can review their space, or the State Council on Disability as well. And then I had the great fortune of working with a lot of residents with disabilities through the Minneapolis Advisory Committee on People with Disabilities. This commission was created in 1976 under Mayor Charles Stenvig as originally the Mayor's Advisory Committee on People with Disabilities, and then throughout the years it became the Minneapolis Advisory Committee on People with Disabilities. The committee really reviews multiple projects through the city, as well as the park board, the state, and Hennepin County. We worked on a lot of city ordinances, such as our transportation network company ordinance a few years ago. Back then, when Uber and Lyft was trying to get licenses to operate within the city, we were not able to find ways for them to provide accessible vehicles. business licensing, as well as back then Councilmember Jacob Fry, they found ways for taking part of the business licensing fees and putting that into a pot to employ a fleet of accessible taxi cab vehicles. So that's been a great service for folks with disabilities. We're currently working on Minneapolis 2040. We work with CPED on drafting and then editing the people with disabilities policy under the Minneapolis 2040 plan. We work with city elections on the early voting center in terms of the space modification to make sure that it's accessible, as well as our partnership with Plan Review to review public and commercial spaces, even though that's not a particular enforcement area, but we work with developers to make sure those spaces are accessible, as well as any accessible units that are going into any new housing development as well. And then emerging trends in terms of what are new designs, new technology as well. Protected bikeways is one as well, and through our partnership with Public Works, we found a few solutions to how to install protected bikeways as well as curbs. And then most recently, we worked on PV Plaza in terms of the historic preservation of that particular site and how to make it accessible to its users. Under the ADA plan and moving into 2019, we are proud to say that we found mechanisms to install or implement captioning into our city council as well as informational videos. This was in coordination with our communications department. Right now, the process is when we have a council meeting, it is recorded and uploaded to YouTube, and then the automated captioning would activate then. With captioning of the meeting when it's live, it allows for deaf and hard of hearing folks to participate live, receive that information live. This also is a benefit to our non-English learners as well as folks that have sort of a processing mode for different sound and information too.
I'm going to jump in. We have a question or comment from Councilmember Gordon.
So if we approve that in the budget this year, then it'll start January 1? Or how soon do you think we can start the captioning?
We do not have a current timeline on that, but it's anticipated that when it gets past the budget process and the dollars are secured, we will release an RFP. There are companies that are very interested in providing this service with us. Communications is going to be the one spearheading this with NCR as a support. Yep.
Okay, well, I just thought I'd put that out there to help move things along. I know how fast we can work around here. And I'm excited to see this get out.
We have multiple strategies on how to implement this. And then recognizing that technology is an emerging area for folks to be independent as well. Originally, when the ADA was created, it only covered physical spaces, and it has evolved to improve guidance around physical spaces. But now with the trend of technology such as the internet and other communication capabilities, we are finding ways to make sure that our digital space is accessible to people with disabilities as well, recognizing that it's a primary mode of them interacting with the city. So when we were reviewing our programs and services, IT took it upon themselves to evaluate our city website and found that it did not meet what's called the Web Content Accessibility Guidelines. So within the last few years, they have been working diligently on working to flag the particular issue areas and then to implement a new web content management system. In that, they are working with the web content managers of each department to, one, provide them training on how to flag those issues and fix it, two, creating accessible content, and then three, ways to move those particular areas into the web content system. It's a plan for next year where IT will set up a new content management system. They'll make sure the content is accessible, as well as rewriting a lot of our, city lingo into plain language that's not only accessible, but easy to understand to our residents and folks with disabilities as well. And then they will be doing usability testing with multiple constituents. So
I have a question or comment from Council Vice President Jenkins. Sure.
Thank you, Chair Cunningham, and thank you, Nick, for this presentation. I was curious, you mentioned bathrooms and some of the new buildings, and particularly the new office building, but I'm not sure if you identified that there will be gender-neutral bathrooms in these facilities. I know in the new office building, but what about some of the retrofitted restrooms that you talked about in the police and fire stations and other areas around the city and city-owned properties?
Chair Cunningham, Council Vice President Jenkins, I think that answer would be best suited to my colleague Jason Perias in Property Services.
Wonderful.
Hello, Chair Cunningham, Chair Councilmember Jenkins. I'm Jason Perias with Property Services. I just want to let you know that all of our new facilities and renovated facilities, we are including the all-gender restrooms as part of those facilities. So, for instance, our East Side Storage and Maintenance facility that is under construction right now, that would have, it would be completely accessible, but also have all-gender facilities per our strategy that we went over. That was passed a few council cycles ago. So,
great, thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, I wanted to actually, because that was a question I was thinking about too. So I know that there was money included in a previous budget for changing restrooms to both be ADA compliant as well as all gender in public spaces like police precincts. So is that still something that's going to be happening? Is that every single precinct is still going to be getting a public and an employee?
That is correct.
Okay, great.
That's part of the phase 2. We're actually currently in design in 2018. We should be seeing those projects start to come into fruition in 2019.
Great, thank you so much for that clarification.
Thank you.
All right, back to you, Nick. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. Well, with that being said, our ADA plan meets the basic tenets of our federal requirements. Moving into 2019, we want to review our city program services, recognizing that there are changing trends as well, and we want to be on top of a lot of these particular policies and trends too. So we will be coming back in October of 2019 with a new updated plan to make sure that we have a lot of proactive approaches to that. With that, I'll take any questions.
Thank you so much. I have a comment or question from Councilmember Gordon.
I just want to thank you for being here and thank you for this report. When I was first elected, a long time ago, we had no ADA officer. We clearly weren't tracking this stuff. We would repeatedly get complaints about our own building and how inaccessible it was. And I know that it's been quite a big hill to climb to get things in order. We've also certainly improved in the public realm with Public Works doing that work and Property Services and also looking at our programs and services. Sounds like we still have a ways to go with our website, but we're on track and we have people helping us. And so I'm impressed and glad we're doing this. And I don't quite understand that we even need to do this extension because it felt like we already had the 3-year plan that's going to be wrapping up and then we'll refresh but I certainly will support that idea with your recommendation and look forward to hearing back again in next October, I guess, 2019.
Great, thank you. I just want to thank NCR for your leadership on this particular issue. And as somebody who has worked with folks with disabilities for quite some time previously, it really means a lot to be able to see this not only in NCR, but as you talked about, it being enterprise-wide. One of the questions, I do believe that in this budget, there's money for a sidewalk gap pilot program. So I just wanted to point that out to my colleagues that is proposed in the agenda, in the budget for this year. So for us to be able to keep an eye on that, because that is a really good connection here to what we were discussing today. So with that, I thank you so much for your presentation. Seeing no further comments or questions, I move to receive and file the Americans with Disabilities Act Action Plan Report for 2018, as well as authorize a 1-year extension of the existing Americans with Disabilities Act Action Plan and direct NCR staff to report back to the Peace Committee in October 2019 with an updated 3-year plan. All those in favor of the motion, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed say no. The ayes have it, and that item is received and filed, and that motion passes. Before we adjourn today, I just want to make sure that we take a moment to plug voting, last day of early voting, as well as our general election tomorrow. So please make sure that folks make their voice heard in this election. And beyond the election, please make sure that you connect with your city council members and make your voice heard year round. And on that note, seeing no further business before this committee, we are adjourned.